Greetings, thank you to Pompano Beach Arts for having me join you all today. My name is Keachia Bowers, and I am here to share with you all about mental health, the arts, and connecting with Africa. So before I get into my introduction about who I am, I must share with you all that you're gonna hear some sounds in the background because I am actually coming to you directly from Ghana, West Africa, okay? Yeah, exciting to be here, excited to share with you. But you're gonna hear the roosters in the background. You're gonna hear the roosters making all these sounds, and it's just gonna be the natural ambiance along with my quilted pattern cloth backdrop that you're gonna get today. So my name is Keachia Bowers, and I'm the founder of Movements for Change LLC. And as I stated before, Movements for Change is an online emotional wellness concierge. I created Movements for Change in 2014, and it came to life after I watched a movie. The movie was called After Earth with Will Smith and his son. And there was a scene in this movie where there was a monologue, and Will Smith's son was caught in this situation where he was afraid. There was this monster, and the monster couldn't see. The monster couldn't see him. The monster could only smell the fear. And Will Smith was doing this monologue and telling his son to fight the fear, that it's all an illusion. It's in the mind. It's not real. That you have the power to take control of your own thoughts and push through whatever it is, whatever the adversity is. And the next day, I registered my business. I didn't know where it was gonna go. I wasn't sure, but I was not attached to the outcome. I said, I'm gonna just do this. I knew that my purpose was connected to healing, wellness, and transformation. And with a history as a creative arts dancer and an African dancer, movement has always been a part of my life. And so that's how I came up with the name Movements for Change. With Movements for Change, I started to do community workshops and to have a presence where I integrate the arts and bringing dance and creative arts for healing, and then it expanded. COVID happened and everything just flourished online, virtually. And so that's how the concept of the Emotional Wellness Concierge came to life. From Movements for Change, I developed, and my family and I started an entire tour where we bring people from the diaspora, Blacks, who have been dispersed and placed throughout the Western Hemisphere, the Americas, the Caribbean, South America. I collectively bring people of color, melanated communities, to Africa to experience the richness of our culture and the creative arts that is so present and vibrant in the communities here in Ghana, West Africa. So I am here to share with you all about this work. And so that's a little bit about me. I love to integrate the arts into wellness. And I'm gonna talk more about why, and I'm gonna talk more about why it is important. I have done workshops with Broward College. I've worked in large community settings. For the longest time, I worked with Old Dillard community, doing workshops and contracting with them in Sistrunk. So incorporating cultural connectivity and bringing a sense of identity into underprivileged communities has been deeply rooted in my community work in South Florida, and now globally and worldwide. I have brought programs throughout South Florida, into Jamaica, the Caribbean, and now into Ghana, West Africa. So with this work, it is revolutionary in showing people that there is power in the creative arts. So I'm going to share more with you about mental health and what that connection is with healing. there a mental health crisis in the African American community? Yes, yes, yes. When we talk about the mental health of a community, we have to look at that from a historical context. Specifically, melanated brown and black people in America. We have to understand that historically, blacks in America have been faced with dehumanization through the process of the transatlantic slave trade. Undeniable. So that's the number one fact that contributes to our current state of affairs as far as our mental health is concerned. Why is it relevant to now? Many will say, what does the past have to do with the present? Research is now showing us that there's this phenomenon called epigenetics. And through epigenetics, we are understanding that trauma travels through DNA. So you don't have to experience a crisis directly to be affected by it. What are we talking about? Systemic oppression, economic disadvantage, racial oppression, violence against blacks, police brutality, present day, current. But when we talk about 1863, 1892, 1902, we're talking about lynchings. We're talking about a slave trade that was built on blacks working without pay in this country. We're talking about child welfare. How did the child welfare system come into play? Where did that come from? Where did we learn that if there are children in need, we should help them? That all started through slavery. Because there were children in America who were born as a result of white slave owners raping black women who worked for them. Those children who were born, they faced a lot of abuse, a lot of trauma. These are things that we don't talk about generally. We don't discuss the historical context of blacks in America. We do not connect the reality that there is a history of subjugation and savagery that has happened in this country. The awareness is what starts with our healing. Being conscious and aware of what has happened so that we can change the narrative today is important. There are 13% of Americans who associate as African American today in America. 13.4% of Americans are Black African American. Of that 13%, 16% report mental illness. There's a disproportionality in these numbers. Blacks in America are disproportionately suffering from mental illness. To be the minority and have such a high number of reported mental, and that's reported because mental illness is taboo. We do not talk about it in that sense of it being a crisis. So we understand that mental illness is happening. It is not being talked about. We are not connecting it to our history in this country. We are not connecting what is happening today. The police brutality, the economic underprivilege, the poor education, the lack of resources. We are not connecting these pieces to our state of mind. There's a connection to poverty and mental illness that reportedly, if you are impoverished, you don't know where your next meal is going to come from or your housing, that it directly affects your ability to live a healthy mental lifestyle. They go together. So what is happening with blacks in America is we are not talking about our mental health because of shame and guilt. We are not talking about the crisis that is happening within our communities. We're experiencing it and we're dealing with a lot of blame, shame, and lack of support. So that results in a crisis. When COVID started happening, I said, we've been living in a pandemic. COVID is not our first pandemic. The state of affairs, our mental health, has been a pandemic in America. Because what ends up happening is we're dealing with alarming suicide rates. The suicide is high, but it's ignored. When we talk about suicide, we're not just talking about direct, immediate, self-inflicting pain that results in immediate death. Let's talk about the slow death in the Black community. We're going to talk about the AIDS crisis. We're going to talk about diabetes. We're going to talk about heart disease, the crime in our communities. These are all a part of the suicide rate that is happening. There is a slow death that derives and originates from our mental health crisis. So yes, there is a crisis that needs to be addressed. It needs to be taken care of, and we need to talk about it with awareness, with an understanding of our historical context, where we're coming from, with an understanding that the trauma of those who lived before us is actually being carried down through our DNA. It is recognized. We have to know our position historically to tend to our needs and to take care of each other collectively. It's undeniable. So we're going to talk about the connection with the arts and mental health and why I integrate the arts into my work and some of what happens with the brain when we engage in the arts. The creative arts, anything that causes us to go from the inside out is an art. For the longest time in my life, I would be like, oh, I'm not an artist. I don't know how to draw. Because we go to an educational system called school where they teach us that, art is, it's linear. You have to know how to draw. If you know how to draw, then you're an artist. But that's really not the creative arts, and that is not what makes us artistic. What makes us artistic and what is the arts is that which comes from within. So when we speak in affirmation, that is an art form. When we speak to ourselves positively, that is an art form. When we allow ourselves to create without judgment, that is an art form. But we're so conditioned to stay in our brains so much and to concentrate and focus that we believe that we are not artistic unless we know how to draw. I know that's definitely something that I believed for the longest while, and if you're watching this may resonate with you. But art plays an important role in healing because it is a meditative flow. That moment where we come out of our head and step into our heart space, we are engaging in the arts. When we allow ourselves to just be and exist and create, manifest, we are engaging in the arts. For every thought that you possess, there is an equivalent thing in the physical world that is tangible, that is connected to that thought. That is what happens in creating. So we talk about manifestations and we talk about bringing things to life. You're an artist when you do that. So if you think about your favorite food, something that is delicious and makes you feel good when you eat it, and it's healthy and it's nice, and you go in the kitchen and you get your cutting board and you get your knife and you start dicing your onions and you get your bell peppers and then you cook them down in some olive oil and then you add some spinach and mushroom and you're singing and you're dancing. You're an artist. You are creating. You are engaging in the creative arts. That is an art form. And when you're in that moment and you're in that space and you're not thinking about how it's going to come out, but that you're just going to enjoy this meal, you are now engaging in your own healing. So the arts plays an important role. Art engagement alleviates anxiety. There's a lot of research that tells us that art engagement is directly correlated to easing the stress that comes with anxiety. So I'm going to put a little science behind it. When we're in a stressful situation and we're worried and we're triggered, we all know what it's like to be triggered, right? We have different triggers. Sometimes being isolated is a trigger. Sometimes being criticized is a trigger. You're at work, your boss says something to you that makes you feel bad, you're triggered. For whatever reason, it might be connected to something from your past, and now you're triggered. You're releasing a hormone called cortisol. That is the stress hormone. And so now we get into a state of fear, we get into a state of worry. That is the body in stress. What happens when we engage in art is we're now releasing the feel-good hormone, serotonin. Now the body is in a state of relaxation and ease because this hormone release is creating this rush. And so we want to increase that feel-good state of mind. We want to engage in activities that are healthy and good for us, but also releasing that serotonin. We want to get away from those negative triggers that contribute to stress and anxiety in the body. And so art is a natural, now considered an alternative healing, but it's not really alternative. It was our original way of healing. If you look at all cultures throughout the world, the creative arts is integrated, right? When we look at Egyptian Kemetic culture, they're the pyramids. They had to build those pyramids. That is an art form. When we look at African culture and we look at the prints, the process of creating this print, mudcloth, the process of creating the mudcloth where you take shrubs from a tree and you beat the shrubs until it becomes a mud and you allow it to sit in water for over 2 weeks. And then you take that mud and you put it into a cloth and you create a pattern, the Adinkra symbol patterns. Process is a healing process. It is an art. So culture and art, they're very imperative towards our healing collectively as a people. So yes, the arts and mental health, they go hand in hand together. They are a bunch, they're a pair. Art is a universal language as well for healing. We see it everywhere throughout the world. Art allows us to disconnect from stress. Art is a tool towards self-discovery. Creating builds a sense of identity. And what I teach in my work as a transformative healer with Movements for Change is art is a beautiful way to connect with our self-esteem. For me personally, when I started to engage into the creative arts more, for example, doing tie-dye that was one of the first ways that I personally connected to art. It was through crochet and tie-dyeing. And when I started to use my hands to create something that made others smile and feel good, it actually built my own self-esteem and my own self-worth. When I started to use my hands to create and manifest, it brought a sense of like, I created that, I made that. And so art is a way to build our self-esteem, to build a sense of self-worth, a sense of feeling good. So yes, the arts is very important. It is an important tool towards our existence as a people and for our mental health. Ooh, that's an exciting question. Okay, so here in Ghana, as you all know, I created an organization called the Okoma Healing Arts Collective. Okoma means heart. And years ago, someone described my work as heart-centered. And in the native language, one of the native languages here spoken is Tree. And in Tree, there are various Adinkra symbols in the culture. And many people know of some of the Adinkra symbols. You have Jinyame, you have Aya, and then you have Akoma. Akoma is one of the symbols, and it's simply a heart, and it means love. And so that's how we came up with the name Akoma Healing Arts Collective, because we're involved in integrating the arts for healing. So here in Ghana, we facilitate a tour that happens twice a year in July and December, where we bring African diasporans, so descendants of Africans, melanated people of color, blacks in America, African Americans, we bring them to Ghana, West Africa, for them to experience the culture. Now, I spoke earlier about epigenetics and trauma and how much DNA recognizes trauma and trauma can be passed down. Well, it also works in reverse, where healing is also recognizable in our DNA. So we came up with this idea that if we can integrate healing for people of color, emotional healing, by reconnecting with the motherland, reconnecting with the arts, reconnecting with the culture, that there will be a heightened sense of self-identity and a heightened sense of self-awareness. And we all know, based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs says that if someone their basic needs are not met, they cannot reach to that heightened self-actualization. So if they can provide for their food, clothing, shelter, and a part of that triangle of needs, there's a sense of belonging. If we can create a sense of belonging for Africans in the diaspora, for blacks in the diaspora, a sense of feeling like they come from somewhere. Remember, blacks have been robbed of their names, of who they are, where they come from. So if we can bring them back to Africa to experience the culture, then we can be a part of that DNA genetic healing that happens, so that when they have children and their children have children, that healing is now a part of their DNA, a part of their makeup. So with our work here in Ghana, we are bringing diasporans to Africa. We visit the slave dungeons that are here, that have been here for hundreds of years, as is, nothing has been touched. But we also created an NGO, which is a non-governmental organization. It is a non-profit. And our NGO, it's called the AYA Foundation, the Advancement for Youth in Africa. With our organization, our NGO here in Ghana, we've adopted orphanages throughout the country. And in 2019, for the year of return, we honored and commemorated the 400-year anniversary of the first slave ship that landed in Virginia, Jamestown Settlement, Virginia. It came from Jamestown, Ghana. I bet you didn't know there was a city in Ghana called Jamestown. Well, that's where Jamestown Settlement, Virginia got its name from. And so for the year of return in 2019, the Akoma Healing Arts Collective Tour, we brought African diasporans to various orphanages and we created a mural. We actually created a mural, a painting, a beautiful painting, to give honor and recognize that we have returned after 400 years of being separated from our ancestry, of being separated from our place of origin. So alongside our, we have an artist, Ibrahim Bachwe. He's a Ghanaian artist. He sponsored us and we brought all the materials. Thank you to everyone who donated, because we were able to buy paint and paintbrushes, and we gathered all the children from the orphanage and we painted this mural. We spent a day in healing with the arts, together with the children of the orphanage and with our travelers from Ghana, from America rather. We brought people from all over the West. We had travelers from Jamaica, from New York, from Atlanta, from Florida, California. People came from all over and joined us, and we brought this healing to Ghana. So this is how we have integrated the arts in Ghana. Through our NGO, the Aya Foundation, we will continue. In addition to what we did in 2019, in 2021, this July, we are also sponsoring and facilitating an art exhibit called Faces of the Struggle. So we are now taking pieces from artists in the United States of America and in the Western Hemisphere, and we are asking them to paint faces of Black people throughout history who have left a legacy, who have fought through the struggle. People like Malcolm X, Queen Nzinga, Winnie Mandela, Nelson Mandela, Miriam Makeba, leaders, Marcus Garvey. We're taking their paintings, so artists are going to donate their paintings to our organization. We are going to bring these paintings to Ghana in July. We are going to auction the paintings and have a standing exhibit right here in Ghana. So, whoa, we are definitely integrating the arts here. And not only are we integrating the arts, but a really big healing component to our work is connecting diasporans through the arts to the continent, to Africa, and bridging the gap, reuniting and bringing a connection that is necessary and needed. We are bringing the children home. When those ancestors were stolen from Ghana, from Africa, they dreamed of returning home. They had a dream, they had a vision of coming back home. And so it brings us joy to facilitate that process of not just bringing them, but bringing their children, because they live through us. Those ancestors who came over, think about it. We are the standing representation of what they survived. Yes. So I'm going to talk a little about movements for change and some of what I incorporate with my transformees. I often say transformees and not clients. I looked up the root word of the word client, and it's like someone who is not willing to lead themselves, that they need to follow someone. And I said, I'm working with self-empowered people who are their own leaders. And so being a transformation coach, my folks are my transformees. Okay, so when you hear me using the word transformee, you know who I'm talking about. So when I'm working with my transformees, as I mentioned earlier, I have a strong focus on inner child healing emotional trauma that comes from childhood experiences that we drag into our adult lives. So for example, if you have a parent who was emotionally unavailable, or if you had an experience where there was an abandonment that happened, you could very well be an adult who is triggered by being abandoned, who has an abandonment wound. You may be someone who's a people pleaser. You may be someone who says yes when you really mean no, or you do what you think others need you to do so that you can be accepted and approved of. And so in that healing work, I speak a lot about connecting with your inner self, connecting with that part of you so that you can be clear about what you've been through, so that you know what you need to heal yourself. So I'm really big about shadow work and tapping into the insides, your feelings, how you really feel. If you're angry, being honest about that anger and not being passive aggressive or blowing it over, paying attention to your true emotional needs. So I'm going to give you an activity specific to that, and it's called the Inner You, Outer You activity. You're going to take a piece of paper, and on one side of construction paper, you make sure you have your colored pencils, your crayons. You come with no judgment, free and open heart, and you're on one sheet, on one side, you're going to draw your inner you. So who are you on the inside? How do you show up without judgment? It doesn't have to be a face. Remember, I said art is not necessarily about drawing. Maybe there are symbols Do you feel constricted and closed in? Maybe you would draw a symbol that represents something being closed in. But you want to connect with the inside self, your inner you, and you can write words, you can draw symbols, you can draw pictures. You're gonna draw and put colors that are in alignment with how you feel on the inside on most days. How does your inner self feel? Are you sad? What does that sadness look like? Are you angry? What makes you angry? Then on the other side of the paper, you're going to draw your outer you. Who are you on the outside? How do you show up? Do you have a mask? Do you smile when you feel sad? Are you comfortable with expressing your feelings to others? Or do you struggle with vulnerability? This activity is there to show you your inside self and your outside self. And then the goal is to bring them together at some point in your life. You want to be in total alignment. So however you show up on the outside should eventually match with how you feel on the inside. Removing that mask. Okay, so that's an activity that is art integrated, your inner you, outer you activity. Another activity I'm going to share with you, and I use this activity when I'm teaching parents and families on how to connect with their children. I truly believe that children struggle sometimes because they don't have the life experience that we as adults have. So they don't necessarily have the words to express how they feel or what they're experiencing. And as adults, a really, really big part of our responsibility is to teach children how to manage the unknown. We all know that COVID showed up. And when COVID showed up, it was like children had to stop going to school. They couldn't connect with their friends. They were locked inside. How do we teach our children how to express their feelings comfortably and safely? A lot of times children feel like they're going to be in trouble if they say their truth. And sometimes if adults are not ready to hear what children have to say, they may react out of anger and frustration and not realize it. So this activity is what I call color-coded emotions. And what I actually use this activity in my own home, and I use it even with my adult child. I have an 18-year-old, and I'll sometimes say, well, how are you feeling today? What color are you? So basically what we did in my home was we created a chart of color coding. So you can have the child identify the emotion. So let's say their feeling is happy. They would draw a picture that represents happiness, and then they would get a color that matches that feeling, that feeling that they drew. You can develop a photo or a drawing for each emotion and have a color that matches it. So then you can hang your color-coded chart anywhere in the house. It can be in their bedroom, in the kitchen, but you might want to say, let's say their feeling is happy. They would draw a picture that represents happiness, and then they would get a color that matches that feeling, that feeling that they drew. You can develop a photo or a drawing for each emotion and have a color that matches it. So then you can hang your color-coded chart anywhere in the house. It can be in their bedroom, in the kitchen. But you might want to say, let's say you have a child and the child feels frustrated, or they're showing what appears to be frustration to you. You can say to that child, hey, Susie, Sally, Keachia, however, whatever the child's name is, how are you feeling? What color are you feeling today? So I did it with my daughter the other day, Selah. We have our color-coded chart. And the trick behind this is to remove judgment from what color you think they should be expressing. Because the other day I said to my daughter, well, what color are you? How are you feeling? Because she was crying and she was upset about something. And she said, I'm feeling pink. And I had to look at her chart and remember that pink for her is embarrassing. She felt embarrassed about something. Now for me, pink is loving. And for me on my color-coded chart, pink means that I'm feeling loved, I'm feeling cared for, I'm feeling good. But for her, pink is embarrassing. She's blushing, her cheeks are red, she's pink. So I said, oh, okay, you're pink. The next part of this activity is learning to have healthy responses to whatever the child expresses. So whatever the child expresses through that color, be okay with nurturing whatever is showing up for that child. So these are some other general art-driven healing activities that you can do. I truly believe that art and ritual go together. What do I mean by that? You may have a ritual, a burning ritual. Generally, I would write down 3 things. For example, when we enter into a new month, I identify 3 things that I'm releasing from the previous month and 3 things that I'm going to keep. 3 things that I want to attract in this new month. Sometimes I doodle and I draw pictures. Sometimes I want to spend more time with the sun, so I'll draw in my journal pictures of the sun, drinking more water. So the ritual part of this activity is writing down what you want to release and burning it. So you might be thinking, is that an art activity? Yes, because you're creating a space, a healing space for your emotional development. So you write down what it is you're going to release and you burn it. And you may want to create an affirmation that goes along with that. On this day, I release the need to be needed. I release the need to be loved by others, and I will love myself. And then you burn it, whatever you're releasing. Okay? So that's art and ritual coming together. Because you're taking your inner self, the inside part of you, and you're bringing it outward for your own healing. You may want to speak over the water. You know, may this water cleanse me and heal my soul. Remove this feeling of depression. Remove this sadness that is over me. And you go and you wash yourself in that water. Creating affirmations is very, very cliche. I know people are like, oh yeah, make an affirmation. But there's an art in that. Because there's power in the spoken word. So when you speak life into yourself, you're actually bringing this artistic energy of creation into your life. And we talked about manifestation earlier. You're a divine artist when you do this. So these are some of my art tips and suggestions that you can incorporate into your own life. Yes. Oh, okay. So I'm going to elaborate a little bit more about Akoma Healing Arts and another project that is a big, big development. And it is called Sankofa Garden Estates. Sankofa is a word that means to return and fetch it. And the symbol of Sankofa is a bird that is looking back, and there's an egg on its tail and it's grabbing that egg. And the belief in Africa is we have to know where we're coming from in order to know where we're going. And sometimes there are things that we have to take from the past that we need to fetch and bring into our future for the sake of our growth and development. It's almost like that saying that says, you know, the only time you should look back in your past is when you're looking how far you've come. Very similar concept. It is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to take the truth from the past, bring it into the present, and leave a legacy. And so with the Akoma Healing Arts Collective, a really big part of the economic development that we're involved in is working with local artists, vendors, and merchants. And what we do is we source their shea butter. We source their shea butter. We source their products, such as this drum. One of our merchants actually made this drum by hand. Goat skin. It's made of 3 elements of the earth: water, wood, and animal skin. Okay? Water, wood, and animal skin. This was crafted by one of our merchants. And what we do is we take the goods that they create and we sell them. We sell the material, we bring them into America, and then we're able to support their community. Financial development, so they can take care of their families. They can do the things that they need to do. So that's one aspect of the economic growth and change that we have decided to bring. And it's in alignment with our vision to bridge the gap between the diaspora and Africa. In Africa, there are actually 6 regions. 6 regions of Africa. You have the northern region, you have the southern region. So we're talking about South Africa. In the northern region, we're talking about Kemet, Egypt, Morocco, right? We're talking about the eastern region, Ethiopia, Sudan, Tanzania, right? Rwanda. And then we're talking about the western region, Ghana, Nigeria. And then we're talking about the central part of Africa, right? So Mozambique and, you know, those countries that are in the middle. That's 5. Guess where the 6th region is? The diaspora. In Africa, they consider the diaspora, the children who were wrongfully dispersed through the transatlantic slave trade, they are considered the 6th region of the motherland of Africa. And so this work helps us to bridge the gap between the diaspora and the continent, and to bring that 6th region back home. And so we bring these goods, we bring the materials, we bring things so that people can dress in clothing, so that, you know, we can show up in our royal African style and feel reconnected. So that's one aspect. It is through the merchants and bringing in the goods. The other aspect now has developed into a community. So we developed an investment group of 7 diasporans. 7 of us came together, we brought our black dollars together, and we invested in 7 acres of land. So 7 investors, 7 acres of land, and we invested in 7 acres of land here in Ghana, which is a part of why I'm here now. And what's happening with this land, right? Wonder, 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 drum roll. We are going to be building a gated community called Sankofa Garden Estates. And this community will have homes, apartments, townhomes, and houses where diasporans can come, build their home, live on the land, and enjoy life in Africa. I know, it sounds like a dream come true. Well, it is. For years and years and years, my husband and I dreamed of doing this and also of living here in Africa. And so this project has opened doors for so many people. We have a team of architects, masons, people who build. And so we get to employ them. We get to bring American dollars that are strong into the economy. Now, when we talk about the dollars that are strong, here in Ghana, there's a 1-to-5 ratio. So the Ghanaian dollars are pretty strong too. For every 1 American dollar, there's 5.5 Ghanaian dollars. That's the exchange. But we get to employ them. And then we get to bring our diasporan brothers and sisters home. Talk about arts and healing and integration. We had to create the houses that we plan on building on paper. We had to find, you know, a structure that was beautiful and creative. And we've decided to go with the round shape structure, the dome shape, because what? We're merging, you know, antiquity with modern. So we know that the dome shape makes the house more, you know, cooler, and it has its advantage. And so we are now building homes that have dome-shaped parts to it, and integrating the arts into this project, into building. So we are definitely bringing economic growth through the Aya Foundation, our nonprofit, through Akoma Healing Arts, our tour, and through our Sankofa Garden Estate Diaspora community. Yes, Ghana has, when you come here, as a person of color, you feel so connected. You feel like you're a part of something, and something that is important and big, right? And you can see yourself in the people. And then you realize, yeah, I belong somewhere. And I can share this with the world. I can bring it to America and share it with my brothers and sisters who are in the 6th region of Africa. And that is the diaspora. So I thank you all for allowing me to share all of this goodness about arts integration, emotional wellness, healing, and being just global citizens of the world. We have the right to feel good in this space, to heal, and to spread healing. So thank you so much.